Hi everyone. So the agenda of this class would be, I would introduce you with the concepts of Agile. I will introduce you to the concepts of PMI, what PMI is basically, what you need to do for getting this certification, how is this certification better than any other Agile certification available in the market, and then if you're registering yourself with PMI, why not to go with PMP and why choose for PMI-ACP. So these are the broad topics that we would be talking about. So let me start with the presentation now. So as you all know, PMI Project Management Institute is the non-profit organization, okay, and it was established in 1969 in Pennsylvania, USA. Now it has more than 5 lakh members and it is actively engaged in setting up the few professional standards, project management standards, and it has designed some of the certifications in a way where it talks about the core project management, it talks about risk management, it talks about scheduling, now there is a new certification which they have launched, which is for business analysis, PBA. This is in a pilot phase, and they continuously keep researching in how they can help people with these skills, or probably a bigger umbrella of project management can be improvised. Okay, so one of the greatest, so you can get associated with PMI in two ways. You can be a member of a PMI and you can be a non-member of a PMI. You can be just registered with them and be a non-member. To become a member, you have to pay a certain amount of fees and then you register yourself to the various chapters of PMI. So for example, I am part of a PMI India chapter, and to be precise, I am a part of a PMI North India chapter. Okay, and similarly, based on your areas, you can be associated with the PMI India chapters, but for that you have to be a member of PMI and then a member of a chapter. Okay, so if you're a member of a PMI, you know, PMI keeps sending you various opportunities to get associated in their webinars or their online training sessions, and or probably some conferences which occur in different part of the country or different part of the world with very nominal fee. But for non-members, this is, again, you can be part, but the probability of you receiving those emails would be low. You would not have much opportunity in earning the PDUs or the points which PMI you need to renew your certifications. You have to, the volunteer opportunities for you would be a little less. So we will talk about PDUs and the volunteer opportunities later down the slide. So as I talked, there are certain certifications which have been introduced by PMI. One of them is Certified Associate in Project Management. It is a subset of a PMP certification. So PMP is a certification which talks on a broader level about the project management, and CAPM is the subset of PMP. Okay. The next certification is Project Management Professional. Then is Project PMI-ACP, which we are going to talk about today. It's more about agile concepts. Then is PMI Scheduling Professionals, then Risk Management Professional, Management Professional. To this list, there is another certification which has been added, which is PMI PBA. This has been launched this year and is still in the pilot phase. This is for the business analyst professionals. So this is still in the pilot phase, and I think PMI is giving that certification at a very nominal cost. Okay. And yes, the eligibility criteria to appear in each of the certificates is different. Right, for like if I talk about PMI-ACP, you need to have 8 months of agile experience, but for PMP you don't need to have that agile experience. It's not mandatory. Okay. So now let's move to what is Agile Certified Professional. What is ACP? So ACP is nothing but it is a global recognized and demanded. The PMI-ACP demonstrates that you have experience, education and competency to lead the direct Agile projects. So to attain the PMI-ACP certification, you need to have 8 months of Agile experience. So it ensures that you not only have the practical experience, but you have the theoretical experience as well. So if I say if you have 8 months of experience of working into Agile project, that ensures that you have the practical experience. And the process of attaining the certification, where you have to undergo 21 hours of training program, where you have to read certain books like Mike Griffith or probably Mike Cohen, it ensures you have the mix of both practical and theoretical knowledge. Okay, so this certification is based on the Agile principles, practices and tools and techniques across the Agile methodology, and it is the third most popular PMI certification. Till 2013, 30th April, there were only approximately 29 certified professionals, though that this number has increased much more, but the last data that is available on the PMI website is from 2013, and there were approximately 2,900 certified professionals. So one of the basic questions which anybody could have at this point of a time would be, why do I go with ACP and why not the other certifications like CSM or CSD or probably CSPO? Because they also talk about Agile or Scrum, and why do I choose to go for ACP? Because obviously the ACP, the credentials which are needed to get a ACP are little more stringent. So why that? So Agile, ACP, so let's understand what is basically Agile. Agile is a bigger umbrella where Scrum, Lean, Kanban are fit in. Okay, so ACP is the only certification which will talk about all the frameworks which are part of Agile. That is Lean, Kanban, Scrum, XP, DSDM, Crystal. It will talk about all of them. Whereas certificates like CSM, they will only teach you about or tell you about or guide you about Scrum. They will not talk about Kanban, they will not talk about Lean. So ACP is a broader umbrella. It will talk about everything which is part of Agile. So in a way, if you are going for ACP, you would know Agile word in whole. But if you go for other certifications, obviously they have their own benefits, but ACP would give you a broader idea and broader clear picture of a Agile word. Okay. Now, why do you think we need Agile? Why did traditional waterfall model fail? As we all know, in traditional waterfall model, we cannot move to another phase till the first phase has been complete. So in a way, if we are working on the requirements, till all the requirement documents have been requirement has been analyzed, everything has been done, documents have been created, the sign-off has been given by the client, we will not move to design phase. So after all the design has been implemented and everything has been done, it is only then that we move to the coding phase. So in a way, the output of one phase becomes the input to the another phase, right? And in a process or if there is something which changes, right? And if the client realizes, oh, I was not wanting the UI to look that way. If I have to go and change something, I would have to go and change all the phases, right? Which is again a very time consuming. Obviously, if I'm working on a requirement gatherings in one go, it would take months for me or probably few weeks for me to understand the complete requirement, come out with a well documented SRS document. So I'll have to redo all those weeks again. Okay, so the cost of change, so there are change, so in a way we are not able to change it, we are little rigid towards the change. While in Agile methodology, what we do, we work in very small chunks. We are not working in a big bang way. Look, here I'll take an example. For example, if I want to create a login screen, in my traditional Agile waterfall model, what I'll do is I'll create a login screen. I would have had some requirements and some kind of an idea or a UI idea from a client, and based on that requirement, I will create a login screen, and then probably I'll show it to the client. So here I'm assuming my login screen, creation of a login screen was just an example, was just the requirement, right? So, but in Agile, so if I have to create a login screen, so what I'll do, I'll probably pick up just the UI part of it in the first phase. Okay, so I'll talk to client, I'll have a client collaboratively working with me. I'll create a UI. I'll go back to client once I'm done with the UI. The testing would be done in parallel. Everything would be done in parallel. I'll go back to my client after probably a week or just creation of a UI and ask him if he is okay or if he wants to go ahead with the same UI. So now at this point, if client would realize, oh, this is not the way I wanted my UI to look, and if he asks us to change something, it would be just 2 or probably 1 week of effort. Had I given him the complete login screen with all the field level validations working and landing page coming up, back-end processing happening, for me it would have been a huge effort. But here in this, we are working in small pieces. We are involving client at every stage. We are giving him the demo. It's not that the client is involved at almost daily level. Okay, so this is how Agile came into picture and the waterfall model failed. This is not that waterfall model is of no use, but waterfall model can be used for the projects which are like very small in nature, or probably client is 100% sure about the requirement. This is what he needs and this is what he needs. But the project has to be pretty small for it to work. It should not be that project lasts for years and by the time it comes out, the technology and the method or probably what we needed has completely changed. And one of the major difference which I would want to point out, if you look at my slide, the second point says the leadership is more commanding and controlling, right? In Agile, where we say the leadership, the project manager, though there is no term called project manager in Agile, but then he should be a servant leader. We don't believe that as a manager I should get command and control my team and get my work done. While in Agile, I say my team should be self-sufficient, they should have the feeling of the ownership and they should be self-manageable. I should not be the one as a manager or as a senior probably, I would not be the one who would go and tell my team what to do. They would understand the things on their own, they would be self-organizing and they would pick up this thing as its own. So as we are called, the leadership role there is called a servant leader. The command and control doesn't work in Agile. So it says the traditional waterfall model is more rigid and it was always top-down approach as we talked about it. It's more commanding and controlling style of leadership. It follows spoon-feeding methodology. That is, management tells everyone what has to be done. The teams are not self-organizing. Teams need a guidance what needs to be done and what next. It's a document oriented. So one of the biggest myth that we have in Agile is there is no documentation involved. No, there is a documentation involved, but then we document it in a crisp and shortest form which is needed. So for example, I don't go and create a software requirement document, software SRS document, right? So how many of you, if you have worked in your waterfall or traditional model, how many of you in the middle of project just went back and read the requirement document? In my experience, most of the time as a testing teams, we never just even went back and read the test strategy document. So where we had, 50, 40 page documents describing what would be the cross-platform or cross-browser testing. None of us ever went, and most of the time we ended up missing one or another requirement. Right? But in Agile, we do have documents, but there is in such a crisp and short form, or maybe they would be just a simple sticky note saying, okay, test cross-platform, the heading would be cross-platform and the browser names, that's it. That's it. And it would be displayed at a common area where everyone can see those. It would not be hidden somewhere in your version control systems, and you would not that you have to spend some time. It would be somewhere on the common wall or on the probably a whiteboard where every team member can see, and on the process they just memorize it. So there's documents are there, but they are short and simple. So here Kulbhushan has a question that if teams are self-manageable, who will prioritize the user stories among many user stories in the Scrum meetings? It's the product owner, Kulbhushan. So we will talk about it. It's product owner is the one who is the intermediary between the development, not development, the teams and the stakeholders. So he is the one who acts as a gate for the requirements. He prioritized everything and decided what would go in one iteration. Okay, so we will talk about it. Okay, so resistant to changes, no. As we said that Agile implements changes. So as in the example I mentioned, so if there is a change in the UI in a traditional waterfall model, I would have resisted it because for me it would have been a month-long effort. But for in Agile, I would embrace change, and I would say, okay, it's just a few weeks of effort or probably a week of effort, a few days of effort. Okay, we will go ahead and change your requirements since we are not working in a big bang way. Okay. It's more serious about process and not the product. So yes, so this is one of the thing that we, as Pratap even mentioned, the visibility of the product that is being developed comes at a very early stage. In the similar example that we were talking, a client could see a UI and a product in a very short span of time. Otherwise, in traditional model, he would have kept gauging what he would get in after 3 weeks or probably 4 weeks or probably six months of time. But here in Agile, whatever was being done, he had the visibility of that. Right? He could just see, oh, UI was done. He could see that how things were progressing because he was part of daily meetings and he was interacting with his team daily. Okay. So again, there is a question by Kulbhushan, what is the document strategy that is used in Agile and what kind of documents are prepared in Agile? So Kulbhushan, it depends again on project to project. For example, for requirements, we don't have a requirement document. What all we have is a user story. Since planning is done, so I will talk about this question. I'm parking this question, not getting into detail of this question as of now. I'll park this question and later in the style when we talk about the planning onion end of the Agile, we will talk about this there. Okay, based on each stage of planning, we have the document. Yeah. Now, what are the advantages of Agile? So as we have already talked about, so Agile says customer collaboration. So I'm a little shuffling the points because we have talked about it. So customer collaboration, since the client is involved, that we are interacting with client at a very short span of time. We are giving him a demo every week or probably every sprint. So the customer collaboration is there. In Agile, we believe in individual interactions, right? So we say we prefer working on we prefer talking face to face. Probably the best way of interacting as per Agile is a face to face communication. Right, even if the teams are not centrally located, we prefer having video conferences or Skype conversations or probably telephonic conversation. So Agile says rather than sitting up over information and thinking and assuming things, talk, interact. Right. So guys, here one thing that we need to understand is Agile is not a concept. Agile is a mindset. If you have to be Agile, you have to be Agile in your thinking. Can somebody elaborate it before I do? Why do I say that Agile is a thinking, it's a mindset, and Agile is not a concept? Can somebody? So when I say Agile is a mindset, like I mentioned, you need to interact with your client, with the product owner to prioritize your things, prioritize the requirements, to have a clarity of the requirements. You need to have that mindset to interact. So when we have this ACP training, we keep focusing, or we play games which force you to go and talk to your people. You know, when you are working in Agile methodology, the way the Agile is implemented, it forces you to talk. Now when we were talking here about that we don't have a requirement document, right? Uh, we don't have a requirement document. We just have a one-liner requirement. Like for example, if I have to work on probably a job website, right? As a user, I would want to have a search criteria implemented. So now in search criteria, there could be so many things. How would I implement it, right? I would be forced to talk to my product owner to elaborate that requirement. So once you start doing it, it becomes a mindset. You get acquainted to that no, you need to interact. So which again leads to your customer. So this alone talking of your elaborating a requirement will implement both your customer collaboration, where you're talking with your customer, individual interaction, rather than talking over emails. I mean, obviously emails is one of the way of interacting, but rather than you would prefer picking up the phone and understanding it in detail. Or maybe you would have a video conference or something. So we are forcing teams to interact, right? So we respond to change, as I mentioned that since we are collaborating, we are talking, we will end up responding to change. Okay, there is a question by Smita. What will determine the effectivity of the Agile team with respect to soft skills, technical skills, and being team player working on the project? Smita, as I just mentioned, if you are agile, if you are ready to change yourself, if you are ready to adopt agility in you, that's the only way of success. If you have that ego, if I'm talking, okay, why do I need to go and clarify anything? That person can also come and talk to me. If you have that kind of a mindset in agile, you cannot succeed. It's again your mindset. If you have a conflict with somebody, or Agile says just go and talk, express your concern, what you have, and then as a team find out a solution to that. So everything boils down to you being Agile. So if you can do that, if you can change your mindset, if you can adopt agility in your blood, as Kapil mentioned, you would be successful. Nothing can stop from your teams to be successful. Okay, that answers you? Yeah. So we have talked about advantages of PMI-ACP. So as I mentioned, I'll just repeat for the new joinees who have just joined us, that ACP is one certification which will cover all the concepts of Agile, Agile being the umbrella, and it will not just focus on Scrum, Kanban, Lean, XP, it will talk about everything. Okay, so this is why ACP is a preferred certification in my opinion. This is just my opinion. Agile is a mindset, so we have talked about it. So Agile, the principles, I'll just quickly read that out. So if you have doubt or any point, just point it. I'm not going to explain it because we have talked about most of the points here. In case if you feel like you are not clear on something, please call that out. Okay. Principles of Agile. Welcome change, motivate people. Since teams are self-organized, the teams are always motivated. It's not that somebody is just behind you with a stick that, oh, you have to do that. You take as an individual, you have the ownership of some things to be done. There are constant feedback loops. Since you're interacting with the clients, you're giving them a demo every week or every sprint. There is a continuous feedback cycle which goes on. And not from the client, but with the testing team as well, since the testing is the daily process. It doesn't happen at the end of the development cycle. It's a continuous process. You know, the feedbacks are continuous. The continuous delivery, we have talked about incremental development, small value-added slices, learning through discovery, and the continuous improvement. Any doubts? Okay. Okay, so now moving to Agile as a certification. So Agile certification is divided into 6 domain areas and 3 levels. Okay, so I'll just quickly talk about those 6 domains. The first domain talks about the value-driven delivery. So it talks So when we say it talks about the value-driven delivery, it says how you can add value to your client, how you can increase the ROI of the client, how you can show him that the money that he is invested is being utilized properly, the output or the outcome uh, for that investment would be good enough. So this domain talks about the value-driven delivery. So it will talk about how you as a team and with the help of the product owner can do the prioritization, how you should focus on a continuous incremental development, then how the positive value should be added to your client requirement. How the second domain talks about is the stakeholder engagement, how you understand what exactly your client needs, what is the expectation, what is the acceptance criteria, or what is the kind of a product that client has in his mind. Okay. Third is bolstering team performances and practices. This domain specifically talks about how you empower your teams, how you collaborate with them. We have been talking about collaboration. So this talks about how you can help your teams be empowered, how you can build a faith, a trust in them that whatever they are doing would be valued, how they can raise their voice, and whatever concerns they have are answered. So this domain talks about how you can do that. Okay. The fourth domain talks about the planning. There are three, so we will talk about planning in the later stage as well. So as biggest myth of Agile is there is no planning involved. Guys, this is absolutely junk. There are three levels of planning. How you plan, and based on the outcomes of three levels of planning, how you adapt yourself, how you estimate the work, and how you understand what would be the velocity, or what would be the what can be your output, or what is that your team can produce in the given time frame. Okay. Then domain 5 talks about problem detection and resolution. It talks how you can manage your risks, how you can mitigate them, and how you find a solution to them, and how early you can what are the best ways of identifying your risks as early as possible. Okay. And 6 is the continuous improvement, where we will also talk about the continuous integration, continuous improvement of the processes, how you can retrospect with your teams, what went well, what went bad, what are the various feedback ways that should be implemented so that your teams are improving continuously. Okay. Agile doesn't say that once the processes have been set up, they should be followed. It says inspect and adapt. Inspect your processes every now and then and adapt from the learnings of those processes. Yes, Krishna, please go ahead with your question.
My question is like, I got to know the 6 domains. I just want to understand where does the metrics part covered in this? That's my question number 1. And the second question is, oh my god, I just left it. Okay, yeah, the documentation. See, I got to lead Agile team, okay, and when I was asking for something on a the requirements document or the change request, those kind of documents, I simply got an answer from the team. Well, that is not a matured Agile team. It's a very premature team. But I got to know that, something like Agile, this is a way of Agile doing, so we don't have any official document and we don't have time for that. So I strongly believe that is not the way the Agile would behave, but there should be something else. So can you please elaborate on these two things?
Yeah. So Krishna, as I mentioned, Agile believes in the minimal documentation. So yes, there are no major documentations involved. So but Agile doesn't say that you don't create a document. So for example, I'll give you an example. So test strategy, right? Agile doesn't say that don't create a test strategy. Agile doesn't say that don't create a test plan. Right? What Agile says is, okay, if you want to create a test strategy, create it in a minimum possible ways. So let me ask you a question. What do you think a typical test strategy would have?
Well, it will have some test planning and a master test document, and how I'm going to, what are all the different testing methodologies that I have to do in that particular project. Some projects might have ST, some projects might have an integration testing, some might have both. So all the test
Exactly.
strategies and the plan would be there.
Right. So now you tell me how many times your teams went back and referred the test strategy document, or forget about your teams. Let's talk how many times did you go back and read your test strategy?
Honestly saying, the ones when I went for a first-time review, my desktop review, and then for the sign-off, and
That's
yeah,
it, right? Not in
right.
between, right? So here is where what Agile says. I'm putting you back on mute. So Agile says rather than creating a test strategy which is not being referred, right? What all things that are needed? For example, the phases in which you have a sticky notes, or probably a common area where all your team sits, just have a bold heading which says phases to be tested. You just in a bullet add those phases. In scope, on a very broader level, put those in scope in a bullet points. What are the cross-functional, what are the cross-browser and the cross-platform requirements? Just add those and have it in a place where everybody can see it, rather than creating a 50-page document. So in a way, you still have your test strategy, but it is just limited to a probably 1 or 2 page. Or maybe if not the whiteboard, you can create a dashboard kind of a thing on your projects in your Agile management tools or something, or a project management tool if not the Agile management tool. Create a dashboard kind of a thing where everybody can see. Right. So, for example, if you guys are using Jira, you might have seen that whenever you log into your Jira, the first thing you see is what are the number of defects open, high prio. So it gives you those dashboards. You can customize those dashboards, right? So Agile says create document, but keep it so short that you can just, and it's visible to everyone. You don't feel a need to open it, but you saw it so often that you memorize it. You know, so Agile, there is a lot of use in the sticky. Even when you are holding your daily Scrum meetings or daily stand-up meetings, you are doing it with your stickies. You have those whiteboards, what is done, what is not done, what are the impediments you have faced. So keep it, so the information radiators which are there should be visible to everyone. What kind of a dispute, Manav, just hold on a second, I'll unmute you. Probably you would want to talk. Yes, Manav.
Hi, I mean, I'm coming from a point when a stakeholder would give you a requirement and then dispute, which would increase your efforts in terms of cost and time. So what would you say in case you have a dispute like that? You probably have to pull back your documentation and say, okay, this is my scope and this is what we are working on and this is what we agreed on. But I mean, you probably have to pull up some piece of paper to show, okay, this is what was approved. It's not that everything under the sun can be put in the project. So how would you take care of that kind of thing? Because the documentation that you're mentioning here, it's only limited to dashboards. Dashboards, if I understand correctly, it's for the team to see, view, and direct their action.
Right. So, Manav, so when I say that, so ideally first thing point here is if you have a dispute with your stakeholders, you're not Agile, right? It doesn't mean that in Agile you would not have a dispute with your stakeholders, but then when you are keeping everything transparent, there should not be a dispute. Let me just take another example here. Okay, you got a requirement, your team worked on it, right? But in the process, in the time constraint, they just missed out working using the coding standards, right? They were just focusing on getting the end product, and they were not focused enough to follow the proper coding standards, the code reviews were not done and everything. Even in that case, after that sprint is there, in a retrospection, when you are there with the client, call that out, that we did not follow, and buy a time from client. And your client would, if he understands Agile, if he has that mindset, he would understand. And it's for us as...
Hi, sorry, I mean something. Probably I have to take a step back. As I told you, I mean, I have limited understanding in this area. So, I mean, is it not that you agree with the client that, okay, these set of quality
no.
and then you move ahead?
We do that. Yeah, we do that. That is why we have a multi-levels of planning, right? We do that, but there could be a scenario. Let's be very practical, right? There could be times when you're pressed with times or something or other thing happened, and you would, end up not following the standards properly. There would hardly be a, so call that out to a client. So if you're working on Agile, and buy a time from client to improvise your code and to work on it. That is where the continuous improvement factor would come in.
Okay. I guess Agile
probably Manav, yeah, once you will have a complete understanding, when we start from when we have a detailed training to it, I mean, when we get into that, once we start from a complete, you would understand it. Since this is a very short cycle thing, this is just a brief introduction. I can't get into the depth and explain you, but probably, or you can talk offline with me. We can take that. I can take that your question. So let me just first tell you what are the 3 levels of planning we are talking about here since the beginning of this session. So in Agile, we are doing a planning at a multiple level. The first planning that comes is at a release level, where when you start a project, the first thing that we do is we visualize a project, right? We decide what we actually want from that. And then we decide at what phases would we be releasing our project. So for example, if I take an example of a Snapdeal. So when Snapdeal started, the Snapdeal visualized, the vision of a Snapdeal was to become a online e-commerce website where they were selling the discount coupons, right? So for them, the first phase of the release was that. Fine. So that the product map that they defined was the release of the coupons, and then they were adding more pages to it where they were selling products. Eventually, the coupon section was raised. We never even realized when that the coupon section just vanished away. It eventually moved to completely e-commerce website. So there are phases which you decide, right, which is called releases. So we have a product roadmap, we have a vision of a product, then what are the phases, probably the versions or the releases in which that product would be released. In that releases, how many iterations or how many sprints would be part of it, and then on the sprints we have a daily level planning. So now, let's look at this picture. So this is my product backlog, which says I have to create a cuboid which has 9 small cubes in it, right? So probably a 1 cuboid or a 1 single small cube could be my 1 release. To create that 1 single cube, I have how many phases? 6 phases, right? So I need 6 things to create a 6 cuboids. I would need a 6 squares, right? 1 square could be created in 1 iteration, and then those 2 or 3 cuboids would be bundled together and would form a release. Probably, so for example, if I am taking 3 cuboids, the bundle of 3 cuboids is 1 release, so there would be a number of such combinations which will create my final product. Right. So in release planning, we decide what are the minimum number of features that we would be bundled together for my functionality to work properly. So we decide the release based on that. Then we decide under that release how many iterations are needed depending upon the requirement. How much time would that particular requirement take? right? So if I go back to the previous example which I gave was of a login screen. So in one of the release, I just want a login screen and the landing page to be displayed, right? And in another release, I would want I start receiving the emails, and I can using a rich text editor, I can compose the emails within a different format. Another release could talk about it. So in my first release and all the iterations in part of that release, I would just focus on the creation of the UI of a login screen and the field level implementation, and finally the database interaction where my login functionality would work, and the display of a landing page. This is just my one release, and all the iterations would focus on that. Whereas in a daily planning, my daily planning would focus on how I would create a UI, what are the things which are stopping me from the normal working, or probably I don't have a clear understanding, or maybe the CSS I implemented is not responsive enough. This would be my daily impediment. So these impediments would be solved in my daily planning. In my iteration planning, so if I decided that I would work on the UI and a field level validation, but because of some reason I'm not able to implement a field level validation, right? So this planning would happen at a iteration level, which will last for 2 to 3 weeks. One iteration is for 2 to 3 weeks. So this is where I would decide that if I'm not able to implement a field level validation in this iteration, how do I plan my work that this is complete, because I have a release to go where I have to give a full login and a landing page. So at these levels you do a release planning. So in a daily planning you have your daily meetings, you have scrum meetings, scrum of scrums probably would happen at the iteration planning. Then you have a sprint review meeting where you are giving a demo to your client. This happens just once a iteration, right? You understand the concept of planning to a very high level. You at least, are you guys able to visualize how would this flow? Yeah. So as I told you, assume this cuboid as one of your release, and then creation of a single small cube from as a part of this cuboid as a one iteration, and creation of one side of a square as a creation of a cuboid as a iteration, and the creation of one side of a square as your daily stuff. And then once all the cuboids, different cuboids are created, you create a bundle, you integrate them together, and you make a release out of it. And now coming to your question, Krishna, about the estimation. Your estimation happens at a daily level. You would estimate a small feature. You would estimate a creation of a one side of one square. You would not estimate creation of a cuboid. To start with, you will start from a very granular level. Okay, if one cube takes me, so for example, 2 days, right? So 6 squares will take me what? How many? 12 days. So this is how you start. You start from a very granular level and then you move ahead. This is how you estimate. Okay. Any other question? Krishna, I'll just unmute you. Yeah, Krishna?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Suchi. Suchi, my question is on the next one is on the estimation methodology. See, I understand that we would be able to estimate the agile requirements. I mean, the product backlog, the requirements or the items that are in the product backlog. We used to play planning poker and estimate those. So in terms of story points, is there any specific reason for us to go on that other than, like doing it on a complexity way, complex based estimations, or I understand about the function point. I don't know how much it is suitable here, but at least on a use case point, like because by the time when we take it for a product backlog, we'll be having very high level requirements for which most of the things we won't be knowing to the core deep functionality. But at least when it comes to a sprint, if not to the 100%, we might be having close to 70 or 80%. So what is the need for us to do those estimation only in story points rather than using other methodologies?
See, it helps us gauge the complexity of the only idea we are doing it in the story points is it helps us understand the complexity of the requirement, right? So there are certain tasks which are involved to complete a requirement. In Agile, we do not assume a story or a requirement to be complete till all the related tasks with it are completed. So for example, the probable tasks with one of the requirements could be creation of the test cases, creation of the test reviews, or creation of the code reviews, or probably the execution of the unit testing done. So, or even if there is a defect open against that requirement, we don't mark that requirement as complete. Right. So when in Agile we are working at a very granular level, we are picking one story at a time and then executing the tasks in each sprint. It becomes very important for us to estimate at those levels, right? So like if I talk from a login screen, so it's not that we will estimate the complete login screen. Yes, we will, but then we would always also assume the task that would be involved in implementing the login screen, because when we are doing all the activities parallelly, so when I am creating a UI, right, it's not that I created a UI and it was sent to testing. It was while in the process of creating a UI, I was doing it parallelly. So if I was not able to complete my testing and I did not estimate the time that I will take to estimate, I would not be able to tell that story it's complete. Even if in a worst case scenario, you skip the testing, right? Or probably you skip the code review. Your story would not be complete. You will have to come back to it. It would always be open. So it's always beneficial that you estimate whatever tasks are there. That is why I mentioned, in case if you missed your code review for that particular sprint, you need to go back to your client, you need to tell your client or the product owner that this was done and you need to buy a time to that. If you're not doing it, you're beating the purpose of being Agile. Otherwise, it becomes a shorter waterfall model. Okay. Once you go in depth of this ACP and all the concepts of Agile, while you study that, you would understand this in more detail. Krishna, does that answer you?
Yeah, thanks for that answer. Yeah,
oh,
fine.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, so moving ahead. Okay, so how will PMI certification help you? Since I mentioned that Agile, this ACP certification talks about all the concepts of Agile, so it ensures that you understand everything in Agile and it changes your mindset. The training, the way the trainings are framed, there are certain games which will help you understand the drawbacks of waterfall. They will help you estimate. So when we talk about planning focus, there would be certain games which will be involved with it. So it changes your mindset. It sits in your mind. It forces you to, you know, be to start interacting, to be collaborative. You know, so in a short, ACP would help you be agile. It changes your mindset. Plus, since it will talk on a very broad level, on a very high level, and it will cover all the things which are part of Agile, it will give you in-depth knowledge of everything, of all the concepts of Agile. It will not just focus on one part of Agile. Okay. So what are the job roles for ACP after you are ACP certified? Though ACP can be done by anybody. It can be done by business analyst, it can be done by tester, it can be done by developer, it can be done by project managers, it can be done by everybody. So even if you are into a testing field, you're doing a testing for your team, you need to know Agile, you need to how to collaborate, you need how to interact with to know Agile. So it's not that ACP would only help managers and above. on probably just the development team. ACP can be done by everybody. So one of the few basic job roles that you can take up, or you can fit into after doing this PMI-ACP certification is Agile. You can become an Agile coach or a Scrum Master, a portfolio manager, as I mentioned, program manager, APM, product manager, business analyst. So any team member who wants to understand Agile and wants to work effectively in Agile and deliver efficiently and smartly can do ACP certification. Okay, so there is again one question. If I do ACP, is learning from, yes, you would get PDUs. 1 hour of training program is equal to 1 hour of PDU. Okay, so this is a very generic graph which we picked up from Google after doing the Google on Indeed.com, I guess. Yes. So this is as per the market survey, anybody who is PMI-ACP certified versus non-certified professional, there is a 28% salary difference. So anybody who has done PMI-ACP would, on an average, would have 28% higher salary than a non-certified manager. Obviously, that gives a sense of confidence to any employer that, okay, if he has cleared a ACP certification, he would know Agile in depth, right? So this report is from the market survey that we picked from internet. So yeah, even if you go yourself and try to Google it, you would see these results. Okay. Okay, so let me tell you how you can be PMI-ACP certified. So there are 11 recommended books after when we start doing this. So I can give you the list of books that you need to go through. Apart, or probably even on the PMI website, you can check the list of books. Mike Griffith, Mike Cohen, there are certain books which are listed there. Those are the recommended books, but it's not mandatory for you to go and read all those books. Okay. Once you are ACP certified, this certification is valid for 3 years, and every 3 years you need to renew this certification. To renew this certification, you need 30 PDUs, which is Professional Development Unit. Okay, and 1 hour of training is equivalent to 1 PDU. So for example, if you go and attend a webinar which was organized by PMI, you need to go back to your login account and you need to submit those 1 hour of training. So to get the 1 PDU. So there are various ways in which these PDUs can be earned. Probably you would have done some self-study, or you were working on an Agile project, or you were attending some other trainings or webinars. So you need to submit this PDUs, or also if there is something called a volunteer management system by PMI. Right. So if you are a volunteer on a PMI, then also you can earn PDUs out of them. So there are certain key areas where you can volunteer yourself. You just go and register to the PMI website. There is something called vrms.org. Just go and register yourself there, and based on your interest, they keep sending you the volunteer opportunities that they are available. So every time you volunteer, you get different sets of PDUs. So it could vary from opportunity to opportunity. From one of the opportunity, you can earn 5 PDUs. From one or other opportunity, you can earn probably 2 PDUs or even the 10 PDUs. Similarly, based on the training program, so if you attended a training program or a webinar on Agile, which was 10 hours, so you straightforward get 10 PDUs. Okay. No, it's not mandatory, Pratap, to read all the books. It depends how good you are at Agile. If you're confident enough, I think only if you are just reading Mike Griffith, it's enough. But this training program, that the 21 hours training program that is needed, is at times is even sufficient enough, because you have a background of Agile. So it's at times this is even enough for you to go ahead and give the exam. So Hitesh, on the if you are a registered member of PMI, if you go on PMI website, just go search for volunteers, volunteer management. It will take you to redirect you vrms.org. Right, there is just go to pmi.org and just search volunteer management program there. It will take you, redirect you to the volunteer management program. Yeah, Krishna, please let me. Yeah, Krishna.
Yeah, Suchi, one more question. Like, see, I understand that Scrum is one of the methodology for the Agile, right? So, like that with other methodologies. Hello.
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah. So, like Scrum, we do have other methodologies of extreme programming, value-driven, test-driven, and future-driven methodologies. So, for me to do the Agile certification programming, do I need to get hands-on in all the frameworks and then go for certification, or Agile certification is something framework that is applicable for whatever you use? I mean, whatever the framework you use, it gets applied there.
Yeah, yeah. So if even if you are working on any one of the framework for minimum 8 months, you're eligible for this certification. It's not mandatory that you need to know about all the. You have to have work X of all the frameworks. It's not mandatory.
No. Yeah, that is fine, Suchi. My question is, for me to get content on Agile certification programming, do I need to know all the available frameworks that are applicable for Agile, or Agile certification examination is based on the process of the Agile and not on the each and every individual framework?
You need to have some knowledge of all the, so Agile certification training would talk about all the frameworks available, right? But then you don't need to have the in-depth knowledge of everything. So its core focus would be on the Agile processes and tools and techniques, but it will also talk about other frameworks. So you don't need to have the complete insight of it, but a high level knowledge is sufficient.
Oh, great.
So as I mentioned that there are so the Agile certification is divided into two sets. One is Agile tools and techniques, another is Agile knowledge and skills. So let me first talk about Agile knowledge and skills. And Agile knowledge and skills is divided into 3 levels: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Okay, so level 1 skill is nothing but how you would. It talks about how would you coach and mentor your team in becoming Agile. How would you help them becoming Agile? Right. Level 2 talks about the 2 techniques in where your teams know about Agile, but how you can improvise them, how you can adapt, inspect and adapt to the new techniques, how you can improve yourself. Okay. Level 3 talks about how you get into the feedbacks, how you resolve your conflicts, what is the conflict management, how you mitigate your risks and everything. Okay, so these are the 3, and this is the percentages of questions with that are there in the exam. Right, Agile tools and techniques, how do you use burn down charts, or how you use burn up charts, how you calculate velocity, how you estimate. So these are the 50% of exam is focused on those techniques. Okay. Okay, so so the under tools and techniques there is communication, planning, monitoring, and adapting. How you can adapt your yourself. Then Agile estimation, analysis, and design. How you write the good user stories. What are the various metrics that are used, like burn down, burn up charts? How would you? What are the information radiators for your project? How do you risk management? Then what are the value stream analysis, soft skills, how do you give the feedbacks, how do you implement the feedback cycles in your project, right? And product quality, how you can ensure that the product that is being delivered as part of Agile methodology is of good quality. So Pratap, one of the good books that you can go through is Mike Griffith. It's another thing is the training, the 21-hour training which is there is again very useful, and it's very deep enough for you to have a good insight of what ACP certification is framed around. So when you undergo that 21 hours training program, if you just go and read Mike Griffith, I think you are at a good position to clear the exam. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, it's not mandatory to read all the books, but then more the knowledge, more good it is. Okay, so exam pattern, there are 120 questions in total. There are, and you have to complete these 120 questions in 3 hours. Out of these 120 questions, only 100 questions are scoreable. It's not necessary that the first 20 would be non-scoreable, last 20 would not be scoreable. So PMI chooses these 20 questions in random, and out of these only 100 questions would be marked, and there is no negative marking. Okay, and the results are just pass, fail, and out of these 3 levels that we mentioned, we talked about, it will just give you how was proficient, expert, good. This is all it will give, and the actual result would be just pass and fail. You need 65%. You need to score 65%. Okay. Okay, so the ACP eligibility criteria which Kapil you were asking, okay, educational background is you just need to have any associate or a high school degree diploma. So higher educational background obviously everybody would have. So in a journal project experience you need to have 2000 hours of journal project experience. It is not mandatory that 2000 hours should be in Agile or in IT or anything. It could be, you could be non-IT person with 5 years of experience, you can apply for this. In Agile, if we talk about minimum 8 months of working experience should be there in Agile. Even if you are a non-IT guy and if you have 8 months of Agile working experience, you are fit to go for this ACP certification. And then 21 hours of training program from a registered education provider like Edureka is mandatory. Edureka will provide you 3 practice tests, and there would be quizzes in between each module. So like we will, if we are done with Agile framework or we are done with talking about the Agile modules, you will, there would be a quiz. Then when you are done with Agile estimation, there would be a quiz, and then there would be 3 mock tests which would have 120 questions each. Okay, and you have access to all the training material and all the mock tests for the lifetime. Okay, is there any question on eligibility requirements? Kapil, I'm not sure if you can use 36 contact hours for PMP, though I think not, because when you are saying that 36 contact hours for PMP, you would not be able, yes, but under the journal project experience, you can show them, but again, you need to have 8 months of Agile experience, you need to show that. Yes, if you are clearing the mock test with good percentage, the chances or the probability of you clearing the exam always increases. But in general, the mock tests are designed to make sure that you have a good reading habit. So the basic reason where people flunk in Agile would be not because of their concepts are not clear. One of the biggest reason also could be because they did not read and understand the question clearly. So having 3 mock tests, and we create the questions in such a way that you develop the habit. By the time you come down to the 3rd question, you would have the habit of reading the question clearly. Generally, in a PMI-ACP question paper, you would never have a negative question. But in mock test, we intentionally have negative questions. Which one of these is not true? You know, something of that sort, so that you read the question clearly. You start that habit of reading the question clearly. No, if you are a PMP certified, as far as I know, there is no relaxation for Agile project experience. right? So now coming to the exam application process, Smita, I will take your question in a while. I'm parking it for a time, for current. Okay. So the way you so all the guys who have given the PMP would know this process. So if you are interested in giving a PMI exam, PMI-ACP exam, you need to go and register to the on their website. There is an online processing. When you register, you need to fill a form. You need to tell them what all what all experiences, what all kind of projects you have done in a journal, 5-year experience, and then the agile experience. You need to mention that. This online processing time takes 6 to 7 days. Generally, 6 to 7 days is the average time. Or if you're lucky enough, you would get your application would get approved in 5 days. But at max, it takes 7 to 8 days. Okay. So after you fill the online form, it goes to the approval, goes for approval to the PMI people. They approve that application, and then once your application is approved, you can make a payment. Now, here is the glitch. It is not necessary that every time your application would get approved. 1 out of 20 people, the chances it would get stuck in an audit. So if you get stuck in an audit, your online application gets stuck in the audit, they would want you to give a detailed explanation of each of the project, where they would also need a signed form from your project manager, which you have mentioned. Right? So there is this audit process. It is not necessary that everyone gets stuck in the audit, but yes, 1 out of 10 to 20 people, 1 out of those can get stuck in the audit. Once you register, once you make a payment and your payment is received, you can schedule your exam, and you can give after your registration. If you fail once, you have another 2 chances to give that exam again, and this exam can only happen at any Prometric registered Prometric centers. So this process, I think one should only start after you have undergone your 21-hour contact program, because there we would also give you some idea on how you need to fill your forms, and this could be of help to you. Okay. Any questions? Okay, and yes, as I mentioned, so after registering, you have to give the exam in 1 year of time. If the date 1 year goes, you will have to re-register, and you might have to. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the cost of Kapil, the cost of giving this certification varies from varies. If you are a registered member of PMI, it is $385, and if you are a non-registered member, it is $435. And this is not inclusive of your training, 21-hour training fees. The cost of Edureka 21, contact us, and I'll ask the sales team to get in touch with you. You can probably check with them. Okay. The certification fee and the contact hours fee is different. For 21 contact hours fee, that's a different criteria. You would need to go to the registered education provider, which is the PMI education provider, and the certification fees for the members is $385, and for the non-members is $435. Okay, so now one of the biggest questions, if I have to go through a PMI, if I have to do a certification for PMI, why should I not go for PMP? Why should I decide ACP? PMP is a project management on a very broad area. It's a broad spectrum thing. It will give you a concepts of project management. It will not talk about the concepts of Agile. So if your interest is just Agile, you need to go for ACP. But if you are thinking of journal project management, if you want to learn journal project management, right? And not just agile, then you need to focus on PMP, sorry. And also, if you're planning to move out of IT, or probably you are no more interested in IT and you want to change your line, and or maybe you're getting into your own business and you want to learn how to manage it, how to execute efficiently, then PMP is for you. But yes, if you are wanting to learn agile and you want to be agile, you want to learn agile methodology, ACP is the question. PMP would help you understand project management on a very top level. It will help you calculate the ROI from a journal project management terms. But ACP is the subset of the project management. One is the agile project management, and one is the higher level of the project management. I don't see PMP getting obsolete, because PMP teaches you the bigger terms of project management. It talks about a lot. I mean, in Agile, you would learn risk management from an Agile perspective, but PMP would give you insight of risk management on a journal basis, right? Even yes, as we are talking that Agile is getting into every industry, even construction industry is getting agile. One of the best example is, gone are the days when a constructor vendor would say that the possession of the buildings or probably the houses would be given when the complete project is ready. Now they focus on one tower at a time. They complete one tower, all the cosmetic and all the construction things related to one tower are done. When it's done, the possession is given, then only they move to the second tower. In most of the cases, their focus is giving the possession of one tower so that they have the name and the fame. Okay, people are getting into it. People see the construction happening, right? It's very rarely these days that they are working on 5-6 towers at a time, and none of the tower is people are getting possession of none of the tower. So you need to decide what is your future plan, what is that you want to get into, right? So Agile could be if you want to ensure efficient delivery, but PMP could be that how you can integrate different forms of project management and how you would want to solve the dependency out of it. So PMP is at a very higher level. ACP would only focus on Agile. Okay, on the similar lines, what are the projects? As I told you, even the construction company is getting Agile. So Agile is getting implemented. Agile is being implemented in almost every industry, even in the building, industrial plant, infrastructure, research, even so. As we so Indian Armed Forces, you were talking. So I just met a few days back. I was in Indian Navy, Visi. Even they are working on Agile big time. So all the projects for Indian Navy, IT projects for Indian Navy these days is getting into Agile. I mean, it's very interesting to know that. I mean, even government agencies they are really very focused on being Agile. So these days, everything is moving towards Agile. Even in schools these days, Kanban boards are being used. Can you imagine? So for students, they have completed to start to in progress and completed board, and every time any part of a syllabus is done, it's either put into in progress, and when it's done, it's moved to do. Even schools are getting Agile. I have seen even my daughter's school, they are using Kanban. So it completely depends if we want to go for PMP or ACP. It depends what is your interest. If you want to just learn project management, if you just want to learn how to learn project management, whether it's waterfall or Agile, go for PMP. But if you want to be Agile and then learn how to handle your work, go for ACP. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, for Agile also we have a PMBOK. Yeah. Okay, guys, another thing, there is a correction here. I just mentioned that Agile fees is 385 and 435. That's my mistake. It's 435 and 495. Just wanted to clarify that. Any other question before we close the session? To have access to the PMBOK, guys, you need to be member of PMI. If you are a member of PMI, under the download section on PMI, you have access to PMBOK. Is CSM needed after PMI-ACP? That's individual's call, right? I can't say it's not needed, or I would not want to get into it. But yes, if you want to do specialization on Scrum, you would. But then CSM is a very would be at a very basic level. Very basic level. So if you even go and see the syllabi of CSM, you would realize that this is something you just did in the first module of ACP. Any other question? Guys, after this session, once this session, you will receive a feedback form. Please make sure you spend your 5 minutes in filling the feedback for me. And in case if you have some more questions, please reach out to sales team of Edureka. I would love to answer your queries. And Smita, can you just repeat your question? I'll just put you. Yeah, Smita. Okay, Smita, I just can't suggest a fastest way to work on Agile. It completely depends on where you are working. So if you're not working on Agile, I think it's a time for you to go back to your company and your team and show them the benefits of Agile, so that they move towards Agile. There is no fastest way. I think it's purely where you are placed right now. As I mentioned you, after doing ACP certification, you can be a Scrum Master. You can, even if you are into a testing or a development profile, you can be there. This certification is not just for the managers to be. It is for every role. You can be a testing profile and be Agile, right? So there is no target industry or a job or a profile which you can focus on. It's a very generic certification. Even as if you are a developer, you need to know the basics and concepts of Agile if you are working on that. Does that answer you, Smita? No, there are no PDUs for this webinars, unfortunately. I can check with Edureka, but as per me, I don't think so. You would get any PDUs for this webinar. The question was, in order to work on Agile methodology, which industries are implementing Agile in big way as compared to others? So I think the easiest way of getting Agile is IT. But as I mentioned again, most of the industries are moving towards Agile. Okay, if there are no more questions, guys, we will close this session. This session would be available on Edureka's website.